Hello, good afternoon. Now we see the interference concept in presentation form. First, we know what is the definition of interference. Interference is defined as the phenomena in which two waves superimposed to forms a resultant wave of a maximum, minimum or the same amplitude. Now first we consider one reference line. This is the one wave. Now it's another wave which is superimposed or coincides, and we get the resultant wave. This is the constructive interference. How we will see? Here the red color means the wave which is in red color, and there is another wave which is in the blue color. These two waves are coincides with each others. Means we know the definition of constructive interference. Constructive interference is defined as the point where the crest of one wave coincides with the crest of another wave, or where the trough of one wave coincides with the trough of another wave. Means what? The crest of one wave is coincides with the crest of another wave. दोन वेव्स जे आहेत त्या कोइन्साइड्स होतात, मग त्याचा क्रस्ट असेल, किंवा दोन वेव्स ज्या कोइन्साइड्स होत आहेत त्याचा ट्रफ असेल. जेव्हा दोन वेव्सचा क्रस्ट किंवा ट्रफ क्रस्ट कोइन्साइड्स होत आहेत किंवा ट्रफ कोइन्साइड्स होत आहेत, ॲट दॅट टाइम we get the resultant wave having a maximum amplitude. That means we get, suppose E is equals to E1 plus E2. काय भेटतं? Always we get in a constructive interference having a maximum displacement or the maximum wavelength, or I am saying that a maximum amplitude. Now what happen in destructive interference? Suppose it's a reference line. First this is the one wave, and there is another wave which is coincides. Now we know that what is the definition of a destructive interference. In a destructive interference, the points where the crest of one wave is coincides with the trough of another wave and vice versa. म्हणजे एका वेव्हचा क्रस्ट कोइन्साइड होते कुठल्या? दुसऱ्या वेव्हच्या ट्रफला, किंवा एका वेव्हचा ट्रफ दुसऱ्या वेव्हच्या क्रस्टला कोइन्साइड होतोय, अँड वी गेट दी डिस्ट्रक्टिव्ह इंटरफरन्स. इन अ डिस्ट्रक्टिव्ह इंटरफरन्स ऑलवेज वी गेट द minimum amplitude or minimum displacement. Okay, means see, in a green color we get the resultant wave having a very small amplitude or this small wavelength, or we can say that small displacement. Okay, this is the destructive interference, and we get E is equals to E1 minus E2. So we get the minimum displacement, or we can say that minimum amplitude. See, in the constructive interference we get the maximum amplitude or maximum wavelength or the maximum displacement. Okay, constructive interference मध्ये always we get the maximum displacement, and in a destructive interference we get the always minimum displacement. Okay, it is clear what is the difference in constructive interference and what is the difference in the destructive interference. दोन्ही interference मध्ये काय difference आहे? Okay, now with the help of example we see the what is interference. If we consider the two sources S1 and S2, these are the two sources. Now there is formation of interference. See in the diagram how it forms. It forms like this. There are the two colors are used here. One is the orange color and another is the blue color, and we get the dark band as well as the bright band. Bright band is nothing but the constructive interference, and dark band is nothing but the destructive interference. Okay, blue band जो ब्ल्यू कलर्समध्ये दाखवले दॅट इज द क्रस्ट, अँड ऑरेंज कलरमध्ये दाखवलेलं आहे दॅट इज द ट्रफ. Two waves are coincides with each other, means observe in diagram when there are two waves are coincides with each other, means if there are crust are coincides with the crust and trough are coincides with the trough, that means there is a formation of the bright bands. That means what? Constructive interference we get. Bright band का म्हटलंय? Because there is a wavelength or intensity is maximum. Intensity जे असणार त्या light wave ची, it is maximum, so we get the bright band. And when there is a crest of one wave coincides with the trough of another wave and vice versa, that means trough of one wave is coincides with the crest of another wave and vice versa, at that time we get the dark band. At that time the intensity is very minimum, or approximately it becomes equals to the 0. Okay, that is the destructive interference. Now we will see in the form of definition the phenomena of one wave interfering with the another wave and the resulting redistribution of energy in the space around the two sources of disturbance is called as interference of a waves. आपण बघितलेलीच आहे definition. Again I will repeat here. The phenomena of one wave interfering with another. काय आहे हा फिनोमिना? एक वेव काय करते? इंटरफिअर करते दुसऱ्या वेव्सला, आणि रिझल्टिंग काय भेटते? रिडिस्ट्रीब्युशन भेटते दोन्ही वेव्स ऑफ एनर्जी इन दी स्पेस अराउंड दी टू सोर्सेस ऑफ ए disturbance. It's called as interference of a waves. We get the dark band and bright bands when there is a formation of constructive interference and the destructive interference. In the form of constructive interference we get the maximum wavelength. In the destructive interference we get the minimum wavelength. Always we get the bright band in a constructive interference, and in a destructive interference we get the dark bands. Okay, this is about the interference of a waves. Now we all are clear about the interference. Okay, thank you.